Federalist 85, Part 3. We'll start at paragraph 5. Let us now pause and ask ourselves whether, in the course of these papers, the proposed Constitution has not been satisfactorily vindicated from the aspersions thrown upon it, and whether it has not been shown to be worthy of the public approbation and necessary to the public safety and prosperity. Every man is bound to answer these questions to himself, according to the best of his conscience and understanding, and to act agreeably to the genuine and sober dictates of his judgment. This is a duty from which nothing can give him a dispensation. This one that he is called upon, nay, constrained by all the obligations that form the bands of society to discharge sincerely and honestly. No partial motive, no particular interest, no pride of opinion, no temporary passion or prejudice will justify to himself, to his country, or to his posterity an improper election of the part he is to act. He's talking about how important this undertaking is, what a big thing Americans are doing. It's a huge thing. They're choosing whether to establish a government, a Republican government, the newest thing in the world for this vast country. A republic, a constitutional republic, where one's freedom and liberty is protected, prosperity is around the corner, no titles of nobility are given. Let him beware of an obstinate adherence to party. Let him reflect that the object upon which he is to decide is not a particular interest of the community, but the very existence of the nation. And let him remember that a majority of America has already given its satisfaction to the plan, which he is to approve or reject. As I already told you, the 7 states had ratified this convention. Not necessarily the majority in a sense of importance, because New York and Virginia were going to be very, very important. Without the 2 of them, there would not have been a union. Especially without Virginia. I shall not dissemble that I feel an entire confidence in the arguments which recommend the proposed system to your adoption, and that I am unable to discern any real force in those by which it had been opposed. I am persuaded that it is the best which our political situation, habits, and opinions will admit, and superior to any the revolution has produced. So this Constitution is much better than any of the state constitutions, and it is truly reflective the real sense of American people as a whole. Their habits, their culture, the way they see things. So he says, this is what we could do with what the reality on the ground is. You have to remember, if you have the northern states, so different from the southern states. So for us to have a constitution that they would both agree to, this is why we have had to come up with this plan. So it's a work of compromise in that sense. Concession on all parts of the friends of the plan that it has not a claim to absolute perfection, have afforded matter of no small triumph to its enemies. Why, say they, should we adopt an imperfect thing? Why not amend it and make it perfect before it is irrevocably established? This was an important issue. the opponents were saying, no, go ahead and amend the Constitution, maybe even start a new convention, another new one, so that we can write another convention, write another Constitution. And Madison and Hamilton, they were trying their best for this not to happen, because things would have been really bad. Everybody would have definitely expected a perfect Constitution, and they would have never compromised. This may be plausible enough, but it is only plausible. In the first place, I remark that the extent of these concessions has been greatly exaggerated. They have been stated as amounting to an administration that the plan is radically defective, and that without material alterations, the rights and interests of the community cannot be safely confided to it. This, as far as I have understood the meaning of those who make the concessions, is an entire perversion of their sense. No advocate of the measure can be found who will not declare as his sentiment that the system, though it may not be perfect in every part, is upon the whole a good one, is the best that the present views and circumstances of the country will permit, and in such an one as promises every species of security with a reasonable people, where a reasonable people can desire, which a reasonable people can desire. So again, he's talking about all the sacrifices they've made, all the compromises they had to make to come up with a plan that would be agreeable to people from different regions of America. I answer in the next place that I should esteem it the extreme of imprudence to prolong the precarious state of our national affairs and to expose the Union to the jeopardy of successive experiments in the chimerical pursuit of a perfect plan. We're in a good situation. Right now we've got peace. Don't lose everything. Don't postpone everything so you can write another constitution. And who knows what will happen in a few years if you don't have a constitution right now. I never expect to see a perfect work from imperfect man. I never expect to see a perfect work from imperfect man. The result of the deliberations of all collective bodies must necessarily be a compound as well of the errors and prejudices as of the good sense and wisdom of the individuals of whom they are composed. The compacts, which are to embrace 13 distinct states in a common bond of amity and union, must as necessarily be a compromise of as many dissimilar interests and inclinations. How can perfection spring from such materials? The reason assigned in an excellent little pamphlet lately published in this city are unanswerable to show the utter improbability of assembling a new convention under circumstances in any degree so favorable to a happy issue as those in which the late convention met, deliberated, and concluded. I will not repeat the arguments there used. I presume the production itself has had an extensive circulation. It is certainly well worthy the perusal of every friend to his country. There is, however, one point of light in which the subject of amendments still remains to be considered, and in which it has not yet been exhibited to public view. I cannot resolve to conclude without first taking a survey of it in this respect. I believe he's talking about a pamphlet, a very important one written by John Jay. I've actually mentioned it. This work of Jay that, remember, he got sick and he couldn't participate in writing more than 5 of the Federalist Papers. But during this time, during the ratification of the during the New York Ratifying Convention. He wrote this pamphlet, and it was very, very powerful, and it changed a lot of minds. So he's referring to that here. Well, I better stop here, and I will continue the reading of this in part 4 of Federalist 85.